Hi guys, it is way too hot to be wearing a hat. It's probably between 80 and 90 degrees. Um, and we don't really turn the AC on. But I am wearing my panda hat because I need a little cheering up, and this is my happy hat. And also because I do not have a leopard hat or a cow hat or a goat hat or a llama hat that would be a little more relevant to the situation, but it's an animal hat. I'm just gonna start. I went to the Colorado Pueblo Renaissance Festival, and it was a lot of fun. And I got to go to the petting zoo, and I got to, see a bunch of acts and, watch some jousting and listen to some comedians and watch some acrobats. And I even got to I got to see some animals, which I really like. Oh, and there was also this, it's like a museum of torture devices, medieval torture devices, which I really liked. Because I write a lot, and sometimes I do some kind of dark writing, and so it kind of pertains to that area. And as I was going through, I was just kind of noticing which devices and practices they left out, and kind of analyzing which facts they chose to share with us, and what that says about how you perceive the past, and blah blah blah. But what I didn't realize at the time was what should have been in the museum was the animals that they keep and the practices that they use on these animals in training and just everyday life with these animals. I had a lot of fun there. It was very lighthearted. I didn't really realize any of this, throughout the day. I was just kind of like flirting with the cute, like, pirate boys and stuff like that, and, chatting up the princes that were working at the little vendors, and, buying candles and blah, blah, just having fun. It was fun. Toward the end of my visit, we stopped by the petting zoo, which I was saving for last because I really love animals. And I had a lot of fun just kind of seeing the animals and, petting some of the ones that were a little more open to human interaction. And one thing that I did notice while I was there is that the muzzles and the nose bands on the alpacas and llamas and stuff like that, they were too tight, it looked, they were kind of digging in, and I saw how it affected the skin in the area where it was forming scar tissue. And I don't know a lot about that kind of thing, so I thought, maybe that's just how it is. Maybe they're kind of sensitive, and that's just kind of how their skin adjusts to being in captivity. But it didn't feel right. So, I marked that down in my notes because I'm really forgetful, and if I didn't make note of it, I would have completely forgotten. So I wrote down in my notes on my phone to just kind of look into that noseband thing, just so I could kind of ease my mind. But when I got home, and I was looking for something about, how do you know when a noseband is too tight, and then I was looking at seeing if anybody else noticed anything about the nosebands being too tight at the Renaissance Festival. But I actually didn't find anything about that, and it wasn't because it was a non-issue like I'd hoped, but it was because the search results were drowning in articles and records and just a bunch of stuff about other offenses against animals. Okay. One of the things I found was about kind of the elephants at these Renaissance fairs, and how they're trained. And there are these things called bull hooks. It's basically these long, pointy, metal sticks. And, when I found out that they use those, I was like, okay, maybe elephant skin is really thick or something. So I looked for, I went a little deeper and I changed my research to reflect that, more specific toward the elephants and bull hooks and stuff like that. And what I found was very disturbing. I found a lot of videos of the elephants being trained with hits and kicks in everyday training, which, when confronted about it, they said, this was not a usual practice, but when you go through all of these videos and articles, you realize that this is a normal thing for them. This is just something that they do because they can get away with it. They're just, when I was younger and, you see the elephant going around in a little small circle all day, you think, yeah, it looks kind of sad, but that's just kind of, that's just kind of how it is. I'm sure they treat it well and take care of it. But, elephants are generally, in these large herds, these communal families, and, they're walking miles and miles together, getting all this exercise, and that's not really the case. At these Renaissance festivals at all, of course, they can't really do that. But on top of that was the kind of shitty practice, pardon my French, but, oh, okay, I think saying that's racist, so pardon my American, but, they're kind of shitty practices for training. One of the other things that I found was information about, while I was there, I watched a couple of the shows. They have several stages, and throughout the day you can go to the stages and they'll have acrobat tricks, and they'll have like sword swallowers and jugglers and people with drums and people with fire and all this fun stuff. And comedians, they've got the little washwomen, and they, make somebody put on a diaper and run around, and they give them roses, and they make a bunch of sick jokes, and, throw water and stuff. And anyway, the Endangered Cat Show, let me see if I've got notes on this guy's name. Craig Warner. Okay. So this guy, Craig Warner, who runs the cat show, he is not a good guy. I try to love all people. He's a shitty person. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I'm like, oh, maybe he doesn't know. No, this is a bad person. During these shows, both the crowd and the animals are put at risk. The guy who goes by Catman, Craig Warner, I see this part, I'm gonna read, I've got notes on because I don't want to, mess up this part because it's actual information. The state of Wisconsin issued a warrant for his arrest for horrid animal cruelty acts. He escaped to Minnesota, where he established the Center for Endangered Cats with a business partner who was later mauled to death by a tiger who Craig Warner had been starving. And another sad part of that story is that, because this tiger murdered his partner, the tiger had to be put down. But the tiger wouldn't have been in that predicament if he had been feeding it. But anyway, this guy has an ongoing record still of animal cruelty violations. But I found it was so crazy to me because I didn't think it was possible that somebody who had all these violations and had done all this shit could be, you know, number one, that he could even still take care of animals, let alone that the Renaissance Festival would hire this guy and finance his systematic abuse. Okay. Another part of the thing, this is a little less likely. Like, we kind of know the animals are not safe, but his shows kind of have a history of getting out of hand. He generally keeps these cats, these big cats, like leopards and Black Panthers, not the kind of Black Panther that yelled at Forrest Gump, but he keeps these big cats on, you know, like dog leashes, and apparently they can get out of them pretty easily. So if the cat really wanted to, it could kind of go just like on a little bit of a rampage, which makes me nervous. Which brought me back to a couple things that I noticed while I was at the cat show. Okay. So at the cat show, one of the things I noticed was during the performance, well, you know, at the Renaissance Festival, everybody's wearing all these little things, you know. I was wearing, like, these bells and, you know, a belly shirt and stuff like that, and, you know, there were fairies and princesses and stuff like that going around. And so this woman had on her, not a woman, but the woman's child had on these little fairy wings, and the cat kind of got interested in them and started going toward them, but luckily, Craig distracted him with, you know, a piece of meat, and then, well, his assistant went and asked the person to take off the wings and hide them. So, you know, that was a non-incident, but it could have been one. And I didn't think that at the time, but it's just after going over all this stuff that has happened previously at this guy's shows. You know, a cat's never broken out of his hands and mauled a kid to death in the audience or anything, but they have gotten out of hand. Another thing that happened at the cat show, which I thought of at the time as a very minor thing, was that the cat kind of attacked him a little, just like on the legs, just kind of biting him and scratching at him. But I thought, you know, it's kind of like when you play with a cat, and I don't know, I don't really know cats because I'm very allergic to them, and when I'm around them it just makes me really sick. But apparently that happens a lot, and it's like, I don't know, he kind of laughed it off, but you could see the pain in his eyes. And I thought it was just embarrassment, but yeah, they're not really under that good of control, which is kind of a big deal, because then you've got public safety, and like, are they not going to do anything about this until, like, an audience member actually gets attacked? Like, this is just an accident waiting to happen. Anyway, at the end of the show, which I thought was cool, we were allowed to come up to the stage where they had just a rope going across, and you weren't allowed to go past the rope. But somebody on one of the articles kind of made sense when they said that, you know, having a little rope going across isn't really good protection. And normally, if it was, you know, a well-trained cat under good supervision, you know, you wouldn't be as concerned, but with this guy being who he is and having the record that Craig Warner does have, it's a little more concerning, because there's a possibility that something could go wrong. And, you know, nobody wants somebody to get hurt. He also, another instance where I didn't have very good control over the cat is this lady next to me. She didn't have a lot of room in her arms to carry the stuff that she was carrying because her body was kind of, it like went out. I'm trying not to be insensitive, but I'm not really good at political correctness. She was just kind of round, and it was difficult for her to hold stuff to her body, so this water bottle shot down and rolled under the thing, and the cat kind of went crazy trying to get at it. But, you know, security just kind of took the water bottle away while the guy distracted it with strips of meat. So it seems like that was handled okay, because nothing bad happened. And I mean, you know, at least it was going after a water bottle, not a person. But, you know, sometimes kids can kind of be, kids freak me out. They're so floppy, and I'm like, you know, what if that was a kid instead of a water bottle? But, you know, I'm just, you know, that's more of a side note than my main point. What the few things I've mentioned, I don't really know a lot about taking care of endangered species of large cats. So those are just little things I've noticed, and maybe you can comment about, you know, if this kind of thing, that's pretty normal, is that standard? But the main thing about Catman is that just his record of, you know, animal abuse, and he's around these endangered cats now, which is crazy because I was like really in awe of them when I was there, because they were talking about, you know, I don't know, they were talking about the cats, and I just thought, oh, this is cool. It's like getting information about these endangered species to the public in a fun and interesting way. And I think it'd still be really cool. All they have to do is get rid of like this psychotic animal abusing jerk. But anyway, I need to move on. Another point I have is, okay, I was an idiot. When I went to the petting zoo, I wanted to feed the animals because I'd never paid to feed the animals before, because it seemed kind of like I wanted the animals, I like the animals to come to me just to say hi, you know? I don't want to force them into contact with me by just dangling food in front of them. But, you know, I was petting this cow, and it was such a nice cow. It was like the nicest cow I've ever met. I've met some cows, but this was the nicest cow. And so I was just petting it, and I was, you know, scratching behind its ear a little bit, and it was turning its head toward me, like, you know when you scratch a dog's ear and it's kind of like, ah, yeah. Like, that's what it was doing, and it was just the most beautiful thing. But, my mom brought me, they were selling these little animal foods for $2, and my mom just kind of brought me one over, and I was kind of excited because I get to, you know, give some food to my new best friend, this cow whose name I don't even know. But I thought it was kind of funny because they gave it to us on a sugar cone, like a human sugar cone that a human would eat with ice cream on it, and it was just full of like feed and stuff. Which I didn't think that was too weird. I was like, oh, I guess sugar cones aren't as bad for me as you say they are, mother. If they can give it to the cow. But you can't give it to this cow. But anyway, so I was around, I was feeding the animals, just, you know, some of this, and I was watching people and just kind of watching people give it, you know, they'd give them the waffle cones too, and I was just noticing which animals they gave waffle cone to. So I was like, okay, this is okay. So, you know, I was feeding the animals, and it was really cool. I was able to show, like, a couple of little kids how to feed the animals, because they'd be, you know, reaching out, and I'd show them how to, you know, keep your hand flat so you don't get your fucking thumb bit off, because some of them were like this, and it was, like, really scary to me, because, you know, they always tell you need to go like that. So I was, you know, helping them hold out some food and giving them little bits of the feed and the cone to give to the animals, which was a lot of fun for me. But when I googled all this stuff later. Oh, another thing I should mention. Okay, so I was feeding the pigs, I think. Yeah, I was over in the corner, I was feeding the pigs, and my mother was next to me. And I said, how do they know, like, how are they keeping record of which animals are getting how much of this food? Like, since anybody can just buy a bunch of food and give it to the animals, like, I don't see anybody, like, watching how much or writing anything down. And then in my head, I had a funny thought, and I joked, like, maybe they just underfeed the cuter animals later, because they know that those ones are the ones that have gotten more food from people. And she hypothesized that perhaps, you know, the animals just, you know when to stop eating, and they wouldn't come up and take the food if they were full. I was, like, pretty satisfied with that answer. But apparently, most of these animals are really overfed, and it's very unhealthy for them, and they're starting to get, like, diseases and some more, they just, you know, I'll leave the data in the description, but, it's not good. So, they're very overfed, and a few of the animals are underfed, which is a weird problem to have, that some of them are overfed and some of them are underfed. But anyway, my 3 main points, I've been trying to come up with, like, a clever little thing, but the best I could come up with is ROC, R-O-C. R is for rides. Don't pay to go on an elephant ride, because these elephants have to go through a lot of painful training every day that just kind of violates. And I hesitate to say phrases like animal rights, because that gets me into a lot of confusing political stuff that I don't think I'm yet smart enough to really understand. But you can tell when something is right and you can tell when something is wrong, and it doesn't matter to me whether that is a person or an animal, because I love everybody. I love you if you're watching this right now. I love you. But I also love your dog, and if you were abusing your dog, I'd have a problem with it, and I'd have a problem with you, and then you'd have a problem with me. Which is why I have a serious problem with the Renaissance Festival right now. Just don't give money to ride the animals, because you're financing this systematic abuse. So that's R. The O is for overfed. I just like to say, do not get one of the waffle cones, or even if they give you feed, because most of the places don't use, and actually it's not waffle cones, because I called them waffle cones, and my mom was like, actually those are sugar cones, and I'm like, well, that does not sound good. For the animals. For me, it sounds great. I love sugar. But just don't feed the animals, and if you really, I understand if you have kids and you want the little kids to be able to, you know, say hi to these animals. Something that I found you can do is, I looked around and all of the animals had this kind of greenish hay alfalfa, and they have access to it, but if you just take a string of it, you can pick it up off the ground, but they want to eat from your hand, because, you know, they don't know if it's something good, maybe it's a social thing, but they'll come up to your kid and they'll take the piece of hay, and you don't have to spend $2 on a waffle cone that's gonna give the cow diabetes, you know? So that's the O, R-O, and the third thing is C. What is C for? Catman. Oh my god, do not support Catman. Okay, so at the end of the things on the stage, you know, he'll tell you, you know, give us, you know, if you give us your 5s, we'll be happy. If you give us your 10s, we'll go home really happy. And if you give us your 20s, we'll be super happy. But, you know, take that money and give it to, you know, the acrobats. You've got, like, acrobatics, I think it was that, there, you know, there was these acrobats that were, you know, training a lot with, you know, they'd go out and they'd spend a bunch of money trying to train with Cirque du Soleil and kind of improve themselves and just kind of reach their dreams. You should give your money to people like that. Don't give money to this asshole. So that's ROC. Rides, Overfed, and Catman. And I'm sorry my mnemonic is kind of boring and sucks, but I was gonna use ARC for different, and it was different words, but then I realized that I was getting it confused with the ARC, and ARC ends with a K, not a C. So you're stuck with rock. Anyway, I've got another mnemonic. If you know, I'm not saying don't go to the Renaissance Festival, I'm just saying don't give money to people who are going to use that money to abuse animals. Like, you know, if you knew somebody, okay, so sometimes you give money to homeless people. If you knew that when you handed this homeless person a $20 bill, that he was gonna really magically, like, twist it up and sharpen it and then stab you in the eye, you wouldn't do it, right? So don't do it at the Renaissance Festival, except he's stabbing somebody else's eye, and when that person's eye gets stabbed, they can't say, oh my god, my eye's been stabbed. You know, call the cops, because people aren't taking people, I don't know why people aren't doing more about this. I mean, I guess, you know what, okay, I have one good reason why. The general reason is that people just don't care. The other reason is that we've got, you know, people say we've got a lot of other shit going on right now, and I agree, and, you know, I'll probably do more videos about those. It was just, this was an issue that was important to me because, you know, everybody's talking about these other issues, and this was one that people don't realize, and I think it's one with a really easy fix. So just, you know, don't do that. And I've got another mnemonic device. Instead of ROC, this is a device for people that are going to go to the Renaissance Festival and they can't remember ROC, and, you know, they're still thinking about, you know, maybe riding an elephant or buying a waffle ice sugar cone, as it's called, to give to a alpaca. And the mnemonic is DONT. Just fucking don't. Okay. Well, I'm really sweaty, but I kind of want to keep this animal hat on, but I won't, keep my sweaty face in front of this camera anymore, because I'm really tired. I don't need to go to bed, but, I love you guys, and if you know anybody that's gonna go to the Renaissance Festival this summer, just kind of, you know, maybe just say, you know, the animals aren't treated very well. Don't overfeed the animals by giving them feed that they don't need. And, oh, that rhymed. I could have used that. And don't, you know, by the way, this guy Catman, he's a real asshole. Like, just, you know, just say, don't give money to Catman and don't feed the animals. Like, it's not super hard. Like other stuff, there's all this terrible stuff going on, you know. Every time I look at the news, you know, a cop's been shot or a innocent black person's been shot. Everybody's getting shot and everybody's dying, and there's all these radicals, and that's a hard fix. But an easy fix, a problem that you can solve so easily, is just say, oh, hey, you're going to the Renaissance Festival? This guy named Catman is an asshole, don't give him money. Okay. I love you guys. Bye.